G'day everyone and welcome to ECITV episode 34.
Sure it's 34?
I'm not sure, but we'll run with it.
It was 33 last time, so I reckon this is the correct one.
It makes sense.
Well, it won't make sense until we get sponsorship or something. Then hopefully it makes dollars. No. Anyway, everyone, welcome. We're coming to you from a different venue. Jenko's dungeon.
My dungeon.
his games room, his bike room. So
my pleasure room.
Pleasure room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Could be that. So anyway, welcome along. Let's get into it.
All right, so on today's show, we're going to talk about the Sam Willoughby UCI facility that's being built in Adelaide. We're also going to be talking about the unveiling of the Caroline Buchanan mural. We have another cool kind of Weenie thing from Tioga.
Product from Tioga, yeah.
I don't know if we'd call it cool, but it's definitely a Weenie one. We're going to talk about the rat rod frames from Fate Products, and we've got some upcoming events to talk about.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
See you soon. G'day, he's Gary.
And here's Shane.
And you're watching ECI TV.
You certainly are. Enjoy. So, general discussion. We've got a little bit to go through.
Yeah, we have. And it was very interesting to see the Sam Willoughby BMX facility back in the news. It was about 5 years ago, I think, that Sam had his accident, and it was only a short time before that where it was announced that there would be a Sam Willoughby UCI facility in South Australia, the first of its kind for that part of Australia. And they're putting a lot of money into this facility. It's pretty amazing looking from what we saw. I think it was around $6 million.
So does that make him the $6 million man?
It could. So it's great to see that BMX is still growing here in Australia, and it's good to see another awesome facility pop up in South Australia. So that would mean that we've got 8 metre starting hills here in Victoria, up in Queensland, and is there some in New South Wales now? I can't remember if
don't know if Macarthur is or not. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, but Northern Territory has 8 metre starting hills, so it's good to see another one pop up, and another place for Australian upcoming pros and sort of named pros, because Anthony Dean would really benefit from having a supercross track in his hometown right now.
So we've got a little computer-generated flyover of the facility that we'll play while we're talking, I suppose.
Yeah, so you can see it looks very much like Shepparton from the video that we were looking at earlier, which is very UCI style, obviously with the 6 and the 8 metre hill, but very well planned out facility, and hopefully we get to do quite a bit of racing there, unlike... well, I mean, we race a fair bit in Shepparton, but not much up in Northern Territory.
It looks like it's been incorporated in a whole sports complex, a whole sports facility. So sharing car parks and sharing some facilities seems like it's a great idea, because obviously the only problem there is if you have multiple events on the same day, but it does look like a good big area that they're pumping a lot of money into.
Looks big enough that it would cope.
Yeah.
So this whole facility is
home to a couple of new BMX clubs.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
See, I read his mind now. You can run with it.
I could.
I'll just keep propping you up.
So originally the plan was to merge Happy Valley and the Cove BMX clubs. And from what I could make out is they were both running from the same facility. So 2 separate clubs running at the Sam Willoughby BMX track. And I do believe that's still the case. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes moving forward, having 2 clubs trying to run their own little club events and sharing a canteen and all the rest of it. So also this week was, I think it was today actually, the announcement of opening of the Caroline Buchanan Memorial. So they got a bunch of girls there at ACT selected to help Caroline out for National Women's Day.
Yep. So what was the quote on the mural? Like we were saying, it's choose to challenge. It's a great logo. and unforgettable.
It's a good homage to Caroline Buchanan after all of her achievements over the years with, 8 World Championships?
And more to come, I would say.
Well, yeah.
Cycling of some sort.
She seems quite determined. If racing sort of doesn't cut it for her, looks like she probably be in the running for a pump track World Championship, or maybe even...
Anything to do with two wheels, she should be involved. I did notice she also posted just recently that she's signed again for Trek for another 12 months, which is fantastic.
But she's not running a Trek BMX. I thought maybe they would come up with another...
You would think so, wouldn't
another frame. So when Wade Boots was riding for them, he had a signature frame. So I'm surprised they haven't come up with something for Caroline. I guess different times, really, isn't it?
And we might even have an opportunity to catch up with Wade Boots next week. So stay tuned. Might be able to do a quick interview with Wade while he's in Melbourne.
We always say we're going to do it, and then we never actually execute. So
it just means
crossed.
We've got all the good intentions. We just have trouble following through. As you get older, it seems easier to follow through, but not for us. So you've been busy this week too. You've done a little film edit on some rim tape and a Velo Plugs.
Yeah, so I thought it was time to get back into doing some tech tip videos.
Sick of waiting for Noxie?
Yeah. Actually, Noxie's committed to doing some.
Oh, he has.
So we'll get some more done down the road there.
It's only taken 12 months.
So like Gary said, we got sick of waiting for Paul. So I thought I'd do some for BMX Ultra, and we kicked it off with Velo Plugs and Answer rim tape, and why it's a better option than, say, insulation tape, which you quite commonly see. People just sort of have insulation laying around the household, not necessarily rim tape and Velo Plugs.
It's a good one to do because there's not a lot of people who would know what a Velo Plug is, and it's something that we have, and we're all aware of it, but majority of people wouldn't know. And it's a simple little lightweight concept that does really protect the inner tube, and like I think you explain in the video, that it's use it in conjunction with rim tape, and it should alleviate any internal puncture situations. So
I've seen a lot of people trackside scratching their heads. I keep getting punctures on my bike, and it's not from an external thorn or whatever. It's from the rim itself, and they couldn't figure it out. And this is a good solution to try and reduce those punches.
It does give you that second backup, the Velo Plugs, because what's been happening a lot. I mean, the Answer rim tape's a great idea because it is a self-adhesive tape, as Shane shows in the clip, and it does. All rim tape will have a tendency to move slightly, even though it is self-adhesive, because a lot of people do use, and we do extensively use, like talcum powder or baby powder or something in the actual tyre, so that the tube and everything does move easily and not grip. Now, unfortunately, that does work against the self-adhesive tape, and it does free that up sometimes. And so if it does move at all, you just know that you've got a Velo Plug underneath to alleviate any situation during a race.
Are there multiple size Velo Plugs?
There is. There's either red or yellow, depending on the drill hole size. In BMX, it's just common to use the yellow one.
So there'll be never a situation where they need the red ones?
I don't believe so. We've never sold the red ones, so I think the yellow ones suit for. I don't know in regards to carbon as to whether the holes would be a different size or not. But to accommodate the 14 gauge spokes and the 14 gauge spoke nipple, I presume the yellow one is just what suits.
So when you build wheels at ECI, because it's one of the services you offer, do you just use a rim tape, or do you use Velo?
No, just a rim tape.
Okay.
We just use the rim tape because the Answer rim tape that we do use now on all our wheel builds is quite a thick self-adhesive one, and it generally does do the job. Like I said, we have had a situation over the recent times where the rim tape has moved slightly, but that's because we do use powder in our wheel builds. What we've done to alleviate that, rather than using Velo Plugs, is on the narrow 1 1/8, because the Answer rim tape comes in two thicknesses, either 14mm or 24mm. And what we've started to do is use the 24mm even on the 1 1/8 or 1 3/8 rims. It just gives you that that little bit more support to stop the rim tape from moving if that does happen. Whereas the narrow 14 mil, you might find will move in the rim that little bit more. And look, it's simply because we use baby powder or talcum powder in the rim, in the wheel itself, in the tyre.
So I ran this video by Paul Knox, and he said, "Oh, you should have added in a tip about using talcum powder." I'd never heard of people using talcum powder inside their tyre in the 40 years that I've been riding.
Well, it's fairly common with the use of rubber, especially rubber within rubber, because you do find that it will bind, and sometimes you'd know yourself that you would change your tube after 12 months or whatever, and the tube would be stuck to the tyre.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it alleviates that. It just gives you that little bit of buffering, and it allows the tube to move and centre itself in the actual tyre, and it keeps that sort of movement allowed, rather than it sticking and distorting and everything. So it's not something that we've done for a long time. In actual fact, I believe I probably did get the idea from Paul Knox, but it is something that a lot of our riders, and we do quite a bit.
So that could potentially reduce the number of pinch flats as well, couldn't it? Because if a tube bonds inside the tyre and rotates a little bit,
100%.
it'll cause a fold.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it is a good little tip that you heard it here.
So we'll show you that video at the end of the episode. It is 9 minutes long, and I think it's worth watching the whole lot, start to finish. So make sure you catch that one. And next we have Fate Products rat rod frames. So Fate Products have been around for about 10 years, but they've only been making frames since I think mid to late last year. So they've got a chromoly and an alloy frame available. They both have tapered headsets or head tubes, and they both have 20 mil dropouts, which can be stepped down to 15 and 10 mil. Both super lightweight. I think he said the XXL frame was 3 pounds, which is extremely light for such a long frame. They're mostly in Pro sizes now, so I think it's Pro and above. So it might be Pro XL, Pro XXL, and XXL in the chromoly. The same again with the alloy, but they also have 24-inch in 2 sizes. But you can check that out on bmxultra.com. There's a mini interview there, so we talked to the owner, and he gives us a lot of insights into what they're doing with these frames and the future of Fate Products and what they have planned in the coming probably couple of years, I'd say.
So you were saying Fate Products have been around for about 10 years. What products were they manufacturing prior to start getting into frames?
In the past, they've made handlebars, and they've also done mostly T-shirts and that sort of thing.
Okay, and they're out of the US?
Out of the US, yeah.
Okay. Might be something that's worthwhile investigating.
Yeah. And we talked extensively about the Tioga front end system last episode. Which, it's quite polarizing and
won't be the last time we talk about that, I can guarantee it.
No, absolutely. And Tioga did get in touch with me and said they'd love to come on and discuss development as it goes via video. So we will be hearing more about that for sure. But they came out with something else which I think is probably equally as polarizing, and it's the Tioga Weenie pivotal saddle. So it's made specifically to reduce weight. It's not built for comfort, as a lot of the Tioga products are built for minimal weight and absolute highest performance. So I think this thing was an 80-gram seat, which is quite light for a pivotal saddle. Doesn't look like a traditional saddle, as you'll see in the pictures. Tioga even call it an anti-seat. So it's pretty much just something to put on top of your seat post to make it look BMX-ish, but it really, really doesn't look much like a seat at all, does it?
It almost reminds me of a downhill mountain bike saddle where you can actually slide forward and back on it to vary your weight distribution on the actual frame. But obviously it's not designed the same way around it, but it just reminds me of it.
I'm sure on a BMX bike it's going to look more like those stick-on pads we used to have for the monocoques. So you can, we'll pop up some photos of that and provide you with a link to see more information on those seats. But if you're looking to reduce weight on your seat. Definitely worth having a look at one of these ones. You won't find anything much lighter at all.
And while we're on Tioga,
Tioga,
Comp 3s, they're discontinuing the all black Comp 3 tyres.
Yeah, which is interesting because they've been available for
1,000 years.
it must be at
Give
least.
or take. So they are going to be available, but just in tan wall.
Just in the tan wall. So that probably means 20 by 1.75 and 2.1, I'd say.
Limited. Yep.
I don't imagine there'd be too many other sizes. So if you're into mid-school and old-school BMX, you're looking for some high-quality Comp 3s, it's probably time to buy up because they won't be making any more in that black wall.
Corner of the market.
Yeah. Brendan Marshall, an old school BMXer, especially from around Victoria here, he has been fighting cancer for quite a while, and at the moment he can't walk. So they've set up a GoFundMe to add some ramps to his house. The target...
Not BMX ramps, but actual wheelchair ramps, just to clarify that.
That's probably a good clarification. Yeah. Obviously unable to work right now, and his parents who have been looking after him, they're out of a job because of COVID as well. So they're really trying to make the house as accessible as possible for poor Brendan. So they set up a GoFundMe. They got a $3,000 target, and at the time we looked it up, they're already at $2,340. So we'll provide a link to the GoFundMe for anyone who's able to help out Brendan. I'm sure it'd be much appreciated, and being a part of the BMX family, we all know how sometimes we fall on hard times, and some people can really benefit from something like that.
And the family is fighting the good fight. I mean, his parents both lost their jobs just recently during COVID times, so it is a struggle for him, and we're all just trying to make his life a little bit easier.
So that's it for news. We've got a couple of events to talk about, Gary.
Certainly do.
So we've got Canberra on this weekend. That's about the second or third round of their state series, which is the combined ACT New South Wales Oz Cycling State Series. So we will play some elevator music and post you some results on the screen, because that's going to happen after we recorded the show. So do.
Remind me never to get on that elevator.
I'll just wait until I open my doors for you.
Going down. Next stop.
And Cross Keys also have the second round of the South Australian State Series this weekend, so we'll do the same. Just bear with us, and we'll.
There's the results.
So after the show, that's where it is.
Yeah, there you go. Lost it.
So the Victorian State Series, fingers crossed, will kick off with round one at Warrnambool on Sunday, March the 14th. So I'll be down there. I'm not sure if Gary's going to come down, and we'll hopefully capture some of the action and maybe even get what do we call it? A main report while we're down there.
I might be down there. Depends if the tuna are biting or not.
So we look forward to seeing everybody down there. I'm sure there'll be more than just Victorians. Warrnambool seems to draw some of the South Australians too, so there might be some good racing, good interstate challenges. So Gary, that's all we have for this episode.
That's about it. So now we all get a chance to sit back and look forward to your clip on Velo Plugs.
Velo Plugs and Answer Rim Tape.
Answer Rim Tape.
So I hope you enjoy, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later. Stay safe out there, and see you at the track.
Cheers. G'day, I'm Shane from BMXUltra.com, and today we're going to talk about rim tape options. So you might find on new bikes you've got like a rubber tube style rim tape. They're not much good. You don't want to get rid of those. And there might be some people out there that are a little bit lazy like me, and sometimes will wrap their rims with insulation tape. Now, insulation is probably a good temporary solution, but not a permanent one. And you'll see, if you take a close look, little dimples in each of the spoke holes, which is caused by the tyre pressure. So eventually what's going to happen is around the edge of those nipple holes is a little bit sharp, and eventually it'll cut through with the help of the stretch of the material and eventually cause a puncture, which is completely avoidable. So if you have either of these two options, remove them, and we're going to show you some better options. So I'm going to remove my tape now. So there you go, you can see your nipples now, there's no tape or anything on there. It may or may not require cleaning, this one doesn't. So we've been provided with two options. So we've got these Velo Plugs, which you can see here. And we've also got the Answer rim tape. So the Answer rim tape comes in 24mm or 14mm widths, so you've got your larger size wheel and smaller wheels, and they can fit, or you've got enough tape in each roll for up to a 24-inch wheel, so you've got 2 rolls in each packet. So I was talking to Gary at ECI Imports, and he highly recommended these Answer rim tapes. What he did say though was there's also an alternative which they also have, which are called Velo Plugs. So the Velo Plugs are supposed to be a whole lot lighter, you're talking about 5 grams per wheel, than normal rim tape. But what he recommended for BMX was to use the Velo Plugs and then also wrap them with the Answer tape. The idea behind that is, as you saw before, the tyre pressure was pushing holes in the tape that I had on there. The Velo solutions are a little tiny plastic, hard plastic cap, which is highly rated when it comes to tyre pressure. So that'll mean you pop that in there, and from now on we won't get little indents in our tape. So there should be enough in a bag to do 2 full wheel sets. We'll just do 1 wheel set. We'll firstly go over it with the Velo Plugs and then run the tape around it. So pretty much all you're going to need is a pair of scissors to cut the end of the tape. Okay, so we've got our Velo Plugs in place, so you can see them there on every hole, apart from obviously the valve hole, which is just there. We're leaving that open. So you want to go around once you've got all of your Velo Plugs in, make sure they're all in nice and firm, because we are going over them with the tape. We don't want them sitting up. Okay, so if you're using the Velo Plug solution only with no tape, you're talking about 5 grams of weight involved. And I've read that a cloth equivalent obviously doesn't stop that problem where we had the doming before, is about 20 to 25 grams. So in this case it is a little bit heavier to run the Velo Plugs and tape, but we're not going to have any problems with these tubes once we get these in, apart from obviously anything external from the rim. So punches caused by either low tyre pressure or by a foreign object piercing your tube and tyre. Alright, so we're going to put the Answer rim tape on now. So the rim tape has a little band on there, and as you can see, an adhesive tape it's an adhesive tape with a backing, and it has a hole for the valve hole. So we'll find our valve hole and marry the two up. So as you're sticking the tape down, just firmly pulling on it, making sure it's nice and tight, and also pulling away the backing from the adhesive at the same time, which is easier said than done. Okay, I don't know if it's entirely necessary, but you see here we have our rim hole, valve hole again. So what I would normally do is double over the top of the valve hole, cut the tape there, open up the valve hole. So the valve is going through both ends of the tape and essentially holding it in position. So I'm going to cut that off there. You want to go ahead and find a knife and cleanly put a hole through your valve hole. So the trusty Stanley knife, just be careful when using sharp objects, we don't want anyone to hurt themselves. Find our valve hole, which is here. So I haven't cut the hole like the original hole. I've just put an X in there and made it big enough so that I can just push my valve in. So there's a matter of reinstalling the tyre. Valve going through the valve hole. You can see that come through. Tyres on and it's ready to pump up. So if you're interested in finding out more about the Answer rim tape that we have and the Velo Plugs, be sure to look them up. Both very valid individual options, but alternatively you're looking at probably the ultimate option with having the tape and the Velo Plugs together. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.